Good evening. You're listening to the Xtreme Movie Show. I'm your host, Rob, broadcasting to you from the Xtreme Studios in the Pineless Palace, just west of Orlando, Florida. I have the young 20-something Professor Pixel with me to continue our discussion of Season 1 of Forever Night, a TV show, Canadian, of course, based off of a vampire that's 100 years old that wants to repay society for his sins. And Pixel, I know that going through this first season, like we do on a lot of TV shows here, I want to give a special shout-out time frame for David Lynch, who just passed away recently of Twin Peaks fame. That was definitely some interesting TV. One thing that's been interesting about Forever Night is, as a show watched in the early 90s, late night TV kind of thing, they really had a low budget. It was a little bit different, I think, being filmed in Canada the way it is. We've mentioned this many times before, as well as the people's names, but we've had a few really solid, strong episodes in here that we feel like the Nick Knight character has been kind of rounded out, at least as much as they're going to give us. And it's not really going anywhere, but I've always told you the episodes are really, really great when we get some sort of scene in The Raven and Jeanette and everything else there too. And boy, we get some good ones here, because tonight's episode 19, is about feeding the beast, riding the dragon, whatever you want to call it. It's about addiction, sir. And this is what one of these shows should be. It should be about some topic that you say, how do we fit this in to the Forever Night universe? And I thought they did a bang-up job. And honestly, I'm not the biggest fan of the Matrix movies. They're okay. But Carrie-Anne Moss, that's her in here. Boy, is she beautiful. This show's just got a lot of stunning, naturally beautiful women, and this episode is no exception. I think this episode's very strong. I like what they did a lot of angst, a lot of that kind of late 80s kind of vibe of music playing while things are going on, stuff here too. Pretty strong in my take. Well, how do you feel about this episode?
I really do agree. It's been a few weeks now since we've done a review for Forever Night. But I think a good break has, what they say, absence makes the heart grow fonder. And
yeah, bullshit on that, but anyway.
Yeah, but when you come back and you have an episode this strong, it really does feel that way.
Right.
This one is very interesting. Like right out the gate, you get something is wrong between this man and the woman. They're making out, and the guy's like, "This is sick. I can't do this." And he rushes out, and you're like, "What could this possibly be?" "Hi, my name's Doug. I'm an addict." And you're very confused. But the intrigue is there. It pulls you in. They have their meeting. He goes outside. What does he find in the car? A bottle of booze. Is this some sick joke? And then he gets got.
Someone is shaming you for wanting to imbibe on the devil's liquid. You know what I'm saying? It's interesting because, again, early on, the sex part initially draws your attention, but it's a distraction because we don't care who it is and who he dies. But the person gets whacked, roll opening credits, which are phenomenal and all that too. So I think it's a nice way to get you sucked in. Again, it doesn't always have to be about the main character like Nick Knight here or anybody else. It's just the thing that they did well in this episode. I just want to take a minute to kind of set the table about using Alcoholics Anonymous is that any sort of addiction program that you have out there, whether it's a combination of drugs, medication, diet, exercise, whatever your protocol is, the one that's out there really probably is the most successful, from my understanding, is Alcoholics Anonymous, is because it's really more about taking stuff in baby steps, having a support group there with you. Hi, my name's Nick. He does such a great job of being this way, right? My name is Nick. I've been clean and sober for 3 days now. Thank you, Nick. And everybody's clapping, right? So they go through how they really do it, and they're not making fun of it, but I like how they're taking a human subject, putting it in here as a side, because the problem with Nick is we all know he has an addiction. An addiction to what, sir? That's blood, right? So that's the whole angle they have here, and they make it really obvious. So they went back to the roots in this episode with Nick, having him very angsty, drawing very passionately and very shittily. And I saw a remark somebody made on this episode talking about how he's very French because, that's how he does it, because he's sick and tired of, damn it, this whole season, nothing's really happened for him trying to reverse his situation, right? Yet now he's feeling pissy and offended. He's acting like a bitch a little bit in this episode, I think, too. No turtleneck for a while either. But we find out that pretty quick this hot woman's throwing herself on because she wants some of the Nick D juice. And it's like, it's very obvious that she's probably involved in it somehow. We just don't know how. Was that easy for you to pick up?
Yes. I initially thought that maybe she was the killer. But we get her to be Nick's sponsor, and that's a key thing. And they go ahead, they form a quick bond, and Nick is feeling on top of the world after an initial nightmare because he believes in the program. Wow.
He's trying to go cold turkey.
I've been clean for 3 days. Drinking no blood. And he actually asked Natalie at one point, hey, what do you think about 12-step programs? She's like, well, you know how I feel about your progress. I think the blood's the only thing keeping it from coming into effect. Also, I want to go back a moment and take some time to recognize that I think this was a really clever way to get Nick involved, because he's not there when the guy ends up dead in front of the AA meeting. But you have Skanky, and he's taking in the information, and they call Nick from vacation, and he's having one of his angsty moments. He's painting a painting, and
really shitty painting. I'm gonna shit on that later, but go ahead.
No, it's really not great. But art, I guess. But what you get is him called in and Soaptree telling him, hey, I know you're on vacation, but you were on the scene, and we think you would be the best one for this. It works fine. And Nick takes this opportunity. He does. He quits cold turkey of his addiction, and he tries to admit to Skanky about it. Not fully, but go ahead and admit, hey, what if I told you I was an addict? And he's like,
he's so great when he's talking to him with the card. His tone of voice, the way he changes, he's like, no, Skanky, I'm serious. I'm really trying to talk to you right now. What if I was? And he's like, no, you're not. You're fine. Because he's like every guy. He doesn't want to have that level of emotional openness discussing stuff from the male perspective to another male perspective. Not like that, right? I mean, that's kind of how the conversation goes. So you're right. I think it is a smart way of doing it.
Yeah, no. And you almost want Nick to succeed here, but you know something's going to go wrong. What goes wrong? Well, as soon as he's getting good, his sponsor comes on to him and is like, well, you know, I've been helping you, and now I need you to help me. And it's...
She wants to do, literally. She's a so the implication
that, I think that,
right?
That's her addiction. You get everything starting to click. You get what the guy was saying earlier. This is sick. That trying to get over his addiction by feeding hers. And now Nick's like, no, this isn't right. You need to go. You need to go now. But she goes ahead and she rips into him, and I'm going to feed it one way or another, with or without you. And she leaves, and
something strange.
Yeah, he goes. It clicks. That part of him that he was like, "Oh, I'm feeling so strong." The strength zaps from him, and he has to give in. So where does he go? The Raven.
Yeah, boy. Because right before all this, too, part of what I'm going to call the seduction scene, or the best scene, really isn't even in the car. It's before that, when, he's feeling a little angsty, so he just needs someone to talk to. So they meet at a diner, and they're sitting there talking, and he's trying to find out about her and what's going on and set boundaries and stuff like that. And she's, right now, a woman like this, gorgeous, beautiful. I mean, there's one thing with being sexy and coming on to somebody basically saying, hey, let's fuck, whether you're a director, indirect, or whatever. But she's just got this great way of looking at him, where if you watch the scene, it's kind of like the last Matrix movie, that whatever one came on the streaming channel, where maybe they know each other, don't. I don't know. I don't really remember. But I remember her going, wow, she's really doing a great job, because when she reaches out to hold his hand and they're staring at each other, this is where, as an actor, he shines, looking sensitive but not wimpy to her, open, which is what women like and get attracted to, especially with Nick, because he knows how to talk to them without raising his voice. But the thing is he's orgasmic, because, and this is stupid storytelling, but when the waitress comes and puts the the ketchup bottle down, holding it in front of him. It's when they're talking about it, and it's why, of course, we know he means blood, and he has on a fry, and he's eating. And he's like, "Wow, I've had French fries." It's so stupid. But the thing that I am in awe of the show is not just her beauty. It's the fact that Skanky's mutton chops, his pork sides, whatever you want to call them, these things are friggin' fantastic. They're jumping out, popping out on the screen to me. And maybe I should have kept a mutton chop tracker on our episodes. I think I've mentioned it before because these things are they're unstoppable. There's the star of the show, and they don't give him much to do in here, but by the time, he goes to the AA meeting and somebody else dies and everything, and the whole seduction thing happens, you're like, how would you say no to this woman? She's attractive. She's beautiful. She's not dressed like a slut. She's just like, whatever. She's trying to do it in a sort of a classy way. But when he rebuffs her, it's like, yeah, she's really hurt. I opened myself up to you, and this is what's going to happen. So this is the thing that makes it such a 90s thing, because, being the young 20-something, you don't live it. But back then, this whole angsty thing was like, as guys, we were like, that's not a turn on. That doesn't turn women on. That's not cool. That's not sexy. That's not macho. But that was the thing in the 80s, being just kind of mopey and all that. And what they talk about is piece of shit artwork that she gets all turned out about it. And she admits, yeah, I'm an addict too. All you people, I come out and help you, and I just want a little help in return. And it sounds like an adult level exchange, for an exchange that both could be handling it as adults. They don't have others. She clearly wants it. It's so obvious. But I love the hint of it. It's no, let me rip off my shirt, whatever. And again, how would you say no? It's like it's dangerous the way she's looking at it. But he bitches out in a sense that this is the drama that we watch for. He's offended that she took on the role of doing this, and these boundaries are set because he needed somebody there for him. So when he rebuffs her, he's pissed at her for it. I'm like, bro, she just wanted to get down. 800 years go by, you don't have lust in her. I don't get it, because everyone wants to make sweet, sweet love to him. And he even teases her a little bit. He's not pulling back or whatever. It's like, bro, you need to do a better job of setting boundaries. You're acting like a 12-year-old boy that doesn't know what's going on. But the best part, though, was when Le Croix shows up as kind of like the conscious or whatever, in that really horrible light or whatever, and he's drinking the bottle like he throws it, because we saw him throw everything out, right? The green bottles. So he's got like that one stash, and he's doing just like an alky. He's trying to pour them in just to get a hit or get a dose. It's so over the top that I'm like, oh, God. But you know what they do? They lean into it, because where do they end up? They end up at the Raven. This is where it gets really good. Go ahead, sir.
So Nick has been eyeing this woman all night in the Raven. She's not really goth, but she's gothish.
She's dressed up as goth to go get some goth stuff. She's experimenting.
Yeah. And
she, like you, is a young 20-something.
She's beautiful too. You have Jeanette coming up to him because he's not seeming himself, just in the way that he's watching and moving, and she's like, you need to calm down a little bit there, Nick. This doesn't seem like you. Why don't you go dance, enjoy yourself, let off some steam?
I think
she wasn't trying to encourage what he tries to do next, because he goes after this.
I disagree.
This chick, huh?
I disagree.
Well, you might disagree.
She's eye-talking him. She's waiting for that. He takes her to the VIP room. Come on, bro. She knows what's up in the VIP room. This ain't her first rodeo.
Okay, but
he's a little forceful, I will admit.
But Jeanette then goes ahead, and once he has her alone in the room, she calls not Skanky. She calls Natalie. She's the one that gives him the tip that he's there. Unless I'm imagining that.
Well, no, because she walks in on him and it's just a coincident timing, right, of doing it. This is a nice little thing, because Skanky doesn't know that he's whatever, and of course now we're led to believe Natalie still knows or whatever. Like I had questioned at one point, right? So she's like, no, you better not go in. He's not worth seeing or whatever. So I thought this was kind of good. The girls who kind of hate each other because they're after the same man having to like be on the same side in a way. I thought that was pretty good.
Yeah, but like he goes ahead, and it's Jeanette who first tells him, stop. What are you doing? This isn't you. Because he is going to go for the bite.
Well, what do you do when you're you got the bloodthirst going on, which AKA means horny. You're 800 years old. You work on a graveyard shift, and you can't get any at the only vampire bar that we know of in town. And you're refusing to bang all these beautiful women. What do? You go back to your place and you just make your painting even worse. I mean, that's what he does. So I'm looking at this piece of trash, and this is worse than anything AI could generate. I know that's hard to believe, or anything Hunter Biden might have did, throwing stuff on it, calling it art, or all these TikTok videos of people putting like barrels of paint together and swinging them, spinning them, and calling it art. It's all bullshit. That's what this looks like. There's nothing to it at all, and we'll find out why at the end. But it's funny because now we start, and I don't know if I saw this earlier. The hot tip comes in from Skanky, and I forget that Nick's got a car phone, and it's the wired kind of car phone. I think all of Miami Vice or whatever. And basically, he runs because he basically gets the note to meet at the blah 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 place. And what do we find out? The woman that's really in charge of doing all the killing and doing all that is related to Miss Carrie-Anne Moss. I'll let you take it from here, sir. This ending,
Yes.
where in this flashback he has that friggin' Arabic Sanskrit stuff in the back, which I had no idea why that was there. I mean, I just didn't get it. I don't recall a mention for it. But this ending thing, what's your take on this? What did it mean to you?
So when you have the reveal, it's a sister protecting her, essentially. It's my job to protect her. They're using her, and they're breaking her heart, and blah blah blah. And
my sister can't be a slut.
This part of the episode for me because I like the rest of it. The rest of it really is solid. This part is kind of weak. I don't know. I'm just not a big fan of the reveal. I feel like leading into the answer was more interesting than actually getting the answer.
Yeah, because I tell you, there is this is, I think, early in her career, but Carrie-Anne Moss has a very dreamy quality to her, the way she kind of stares, not like a crazy person or like that, but it's like just the way she's looking, it's just very alluring without being, come hither, fuck me eyes. I mean, and there are differences in those views, and she's done a lot of things since then, but I'm telling you, she's great. This show has a great way of putting a lot of beautiful, attractive women there, but there's a difference between that and when being seductive. So when we're at the Raven and you see all, anybody out there dancing around or Nick making out with what's her name, obviously they have a thing for each other, but she's not in the moment at that time trying to seduce them. She's being playful with them in that sort of way and everything here. But here there's an obvious attraction that like Carrie-Anne Moss is able to project, and so it makes you go, well, it makes sense. She's a sex addict, and she's trying to still be whatever about, not a complete slut or whore. And I have absolutely no problem with them flirting the boundaries of what might be considered promiscuous activity on late night TV with the kissing and all that. We don't have to see nudity. We don't have to see the sex act. We actually don't have to see the violence, because in here we get a lot of Nick making vampire grunts and faces and all that when he's got the bloodthirst thing going on, but we don't necessarily see him vamping too hard, which I really don't mind. It's about the themes of it and how would it adapt to it. So that's one thing that I don't know that they've made clear, is that, well, if he ate French fries, does he take a crap? Does he can he make love to a woman? I mean, you think he's a vampire, he's got energy, he could, but those things they never really get into or whatever. And for in our years, you'd figure there'd be some clarity about what he can and can't do with the woman. We already got the vampire stuff episodes ago, early in the season, with him in the courtroom, right, with the sun coming over, so we know he doesn't immediately vaporize, but it's pretty bad for him. So I like the fact that they're coming back to the Raven. I like the fact that they're taking a topical element here, in this case addiction, dealing with it and taking it seriously, I think, for the most part. I liked the episode. I thought it was pretty solid.
Yeah,
there's been worse, definitely.
I definitely agree that this episode, though I'm not the biggest fan of the ending part of it, the reveal isn't anything too grand. The episode itself keeps you intrigued throughout. You have Nick with vision sequences. You don't have. Wait. Yeah, no, there's no flashbacks this episode.
Well, I think it's implied here, like when LaClaw's berating him about his hidden stash and all that, is that when he gets close to the edge there, because he did try to go cold turkey technically, that, you know, you get a little woozy. It's kind of like us as human, where, you know, we get psychologically stressed, physically tired, nutritionally tired, all those combinations of things you can hallucinate. So his hallucinations are obviously a way to see what really bothers him, and that's the qual, or say in some episodes there's more of a leaning into a backstory, as we called it, the plan B, or the line B kind of plot line to it, and how it is very similar to the front. So like I say, pretty solid episode all in all things considered. We've definitely had a few good ones here too. So coming into the end of season 1 here, I think we're ramping up here a little bit. I hope that continues here. Not an average episode. I would say this is definitely above average to good. I mean, to me, it leans more towards the good than the average, just because, to your point, is well said. This keeps you enthralled all the way to the end, even if the end's a little bit lackluster.
Yep.
Final thoughts?
Final thoughts. This might go up there in one of the top 5, honestly, just with how strong it is. I'm really a fan, and thank you for pointing out why I knew this woman's face.
Well, we're going back 30 years, right? So, I mean, some people might recognize people from before. We do, you know, older things here on the Xtreme Movie Show. We like to call the show Xtreme TV when we're doing television, and newer stuff too. So it's always interesting. And, you know, in our Twin Peaks review, I pointed out Robert Forster, who's supposed to be Harry Truman's brother, and in season 3 of The Return, the older guy. I was like, oh yeah, this is the guy that played in like the Gator TV movie from 1980 and some other stuff that you may have seen. But you, being, you know, the young 20-something, 2 generations removed, you're not going to know that. But some of our listeners definitely do, and I think that's always interesting, is recognizing roles that people have. Like, to me, it took me several episodes to get over the fact that I think it was the janitor in a John Hughes movie that's actually Skanky, and I'm like, okay, it's that dude. But he's been in other things too. You just don't think of him because he's not really been a lead. But he's been very good here, even though they write him as a sidekick rather than equal. I'd wish they would do that. And, you know, according to our super fan, is it Kevin Dobson, about some of these, that season 2 are remarkably different. And I've heard that season 1 is the lightest in tone. So I'm looking forward to diving into 2 and 3 when we get to cover those, how much of a difference that's going to be. And I imagine, like some TV shows, there may actually be some characters written in, written off, introduced, that sort of thing. There you have it, ladies and gentlemen, season 1, episode 18, Forever Night. Check it out, and check us out next week when we recover 19, as we're rounding into the last few episodes here of Forever Night. Good night now.
This was not a Den